sister Taylor and I all went running to the door to see what was going on. My dad was out on the sidewalk holding up his boxers with one hand and using the other one to point the Miami Herald at the alligator, like it was a weapon or something. My mom screamed, and so did Taylor, and maybe I also made an unmanly noise because it really was a pretty major alligator. "Call 911!" shouted my dad. "Hurry!" "Okay," said my mom, running to the kitchen. By now, Zonka was really going crazy barking. He was also out of the house, which was a violation of the leash rule, but I guess he figured he was protecting my dad. What he was really doing was upsetting the alligator, which started to move forward in that slow way alligators walk. I think it was going for Zonka, but it was moving kind of in the direction of Taylor and me, so my father came running down the walk, waving the Miami Herald toward the alligator and going, "Shoot! Get away!" That was definitely the bravest thing I ever saw my dad do, but it did not impress the alligator. What it did was make the alligator turn more in the direction of my dad, who turned right around and went sprinting back toward the sidewalk. "Run in a zigzag pattern!" shouted Taylor. The reason she shouted that was, in Florida, some people believe alligators can only run in a straight line, so they tell kids that if a gator is chasing them, they should run in a zigzag pattern. But it's a myth. In 5th grade, my science teacher, Mrs. Bunce, showed us a video of an alligator chasing a dead chicken being dragged by a guy in a zigzag pattern, and the gator had no trouble following it. Mrs. Bunce said you should run in a straight line. "That's a myth!" I shouted to my dad. "Run in a straight line!" "Are you trying to kill him?" yelled Taylor, punching my arm. She's in 6th grade and very dramatic. The truth was, my dad couldn't hear either of us because of Zonka's barking, which was getting even louder. The alligator was now standing right on the walkway, and Zonka was getting pretty close to it, which was not good because alligators, besides being able to zigzag, can also move really fast when they want to. The one in Mrs. Bunt's video caught the chicken and almost caught the guy dragging it. The police came pretty fast, 3 cars in like 2 minutes. They stopped in the street in front of our house and their lights flashing. All the neighbors came out of their houses to see what was going on. Also, people on their way to work were stopping their cars to watch. The police got out of their cars, but didn't get too close to the alligator, which was still watching Zonka, who was still barking. So, everybody just stood around for a few minutes while more commuters stopped their cars. So, by now, there was a pretty big crowd out there with my dad. Finally, some animal control officers showed up. They're used to alligators on people's lawns, and they handled this one in like 5 minutes. They snagged it with a noose, duct-taped its mouth shut, and took it away in a van. The neighbors went back inside, and the commuters drove away. And Zonka finally shut up, and it was all over, except for my mom reminding my dad that she told him not to wear his boxers outside. But did he listen? No, he did not listen, etc., 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 like 650 times. That night when we were eating dinner, I got a text from a kid in my class saying, "Chan 4 now, LOL." So we turned on the kitchen TV, and there was our house. In a cell phone video one of the commuters took, you could see the gator, and there was a nice close-up of my dad, holding up his holy boxers with his belly sagging down and his hair sticking out every direction the way it does in the morning. I said, "Real good look, Dad." My dad said, "They can't show that without my permission, can they?" Taylor said, "I'm gonna skip school for the rest of my life." My mom didn't say anything, which is not like her. She's Cuban. She just stared at the TV until the alligator story was over. Then she got up and walked out of the kitchen. About a minute later, we heard the patio door open and close. We went to look, and there was my mom on the patio next to the pool, standing over my dad's boxers, which were on fire. When they were totally burned up, she splashed some pool water on the ashes and walked back into the house, right past my dad, not saying a word. I don't know if they talked about it later. I do know that the next morning, when he went out to get the paper, he wore a bathrobe. But my point, I bet you forgot I had a point, is that stuff like that, an alligator on the lawn, happens all the time in Miami. You get used to it, the way you get used to palm trees and hurricanes, and hardly ever needing a sweater. Also, you get used to hearing Spanish. Like my mom, she grew up in the U.S. and speaks English without an accent, but when her family's around, all the aunts and uncles and cousins, like 17,000 of them, she switches to Spanish. I grew up understanding it, and at Culver Middle School, some of my classes are totally in Spanish. Other kids take classes in French and German. Culver is a language magnet school. What it's mainly a magnet for, if you want...